Good morning all, and welcome to day 2 of our licensing subcommittee. My name is Councillor Emma Parker and I am chairman of Dorset Council's licensing committee, and I'm also chair of this hearing that's a continuation from yesterday. If I could get my 2 fellow councillors from yesterday as well to also introduce themselves, please.
Good morning, I'm Councillor Les Fry from Dorchester West.
Good morning, my name is Councillor Kate Weller, representing Rodwell and Wyke.
Thank you. And I would now like to pass over to Councillor Weller, who has a statement to read out with regards to yesterday's meeting. Thank you, Councillor Weller.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to say that having listened to the recording from yesterday, it's now clear to me that Mr. Meehan was trying to distinguish between people staying at Parnham House and their guests accessing the estate, as opposed to the general public having access to the estate. This was all in the context of limiting numbers at Parnham. I think the wording used was inappropriate, but on reflection, I understand the point he was trying to make. However, I find his implication that the complexity and nature of the subject of the hearing was too great for the competencies of Dorset Council legal and licensing teams. That was wholly inappropriate in my view, and I found it offensive. If Mr. Meehan wants to speak to me at some later point, I would be happy to do so. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Weller. Okay, I will now do a roll call to ensure that we've got everybody on the meeting before we go into our case of summing up. So can I ask our Democratic Service officers, are you all here?
Good morning, I'm George Dare and I'm Democratic Service Officer.
Good morning, I'm Elaine Tibble and yes, I'm here.
Thank you. And our legal representative.
Good morning, Councillor Parker. I'm here. I'm a solicitor with Dorset Council.
Thank you. And our licensing team leader.
Good morning, Chair. Aileen Powell, and I'm present and correct.
Thank you. And do we have anybody else on today from licensing?
Yes, as yesterday, we have Roy Keepax, one of the licensing officers who's actually doing the broadcasting, so he won't speak very much through the hearing unless there's a technical issue.
Okay, thank you very much. And the applicant, do we have the representatives of the applicant? Mrs. Lefebvre, do we have you here this morning?
Good morning, Chair. Yes, you do.
Okay, is it just you or have we?
Mr. Caton's with me and Ms. Tricker as well, my solicitor, as yesterday, but we're all in separate places today. Only Mr. at Parnham House today.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, I'm now going to go through the list of the members that we have to speak, which will be the same list as yesterday, because obviously today is with regards to summing up the case. So I will go down through the list. I do have Councillor Tony Alford, but I believe Tony is away and I believe that he was having troubles getting on yesterday, so I assume he's not on today either.
I can't see him on the call, Chair.
No, okay. Do we have Mr. Dower?
I can't see Mr. Dower as attending either.
Okay. Do we have Emma Tracy and Chris Berry?
Yes, I'm here, Emma Tracy, and I have Simon Megan with me.
Do we have Lorraine Briam?
Yes, I'm here. My daughter Caris is not, though. She has to work today.
Okay. We did have apologies from Benjamin Dove Seymour yesterday. I don't know whether he's on today.
I can't see him on the call, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mr. James Green?
I can't see him in attendance either.
Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Horner? No.
No, they don't appear to have joined either this morning.
Okay, Chrissy Jenkins?
Yes, Tim and Chrissy Jenkins.
Thank you. We've had apologies from Mr. Lousley. Simon Megan?
Yes, I'm here.
We got Mr. Michael Nisbet. No?
Yes, no, he's on the call, Chair. His microphone is just muted at the moment.
Oh, okay. We've also got apologies from Gillian Perrott. Do we have Richard Smith?
Yes,
Michael
you do.
Nisbet here.
Thank you, Mr. Nisbet.
And Richard Smith as well.
Do we have the ward councillor, Councillor Rebecca Knox?
Yeah, I'm here.
Morning, thank you. Okay, thank you all. As you know, yesterday we went through the application. Everybody asked their questions, and now we are on to the part of the meeting where we will go to summing up. So this is your opportunity to sum up your case. So everybody will given the opportunity to sum up. When we do sum up, we actually do it backwards. So we start with whoever went last goes first, but I obviously know that Councillor Knox was the last one to speak yesterday, but what I'm going to do for Councillor Knox is I'm going to pop her in at the end with being the ward councillor. So with regards to summing up, I will start with Mr. Richard Smith.
Hello.
Hello.
So I thought yesterday went actually quite well. I was very happy with it as an exercise in democracy. And I think also there were some good contributions from the Parnham team. I'm expecting from what I see in my email today that there is a revised map that will be the basis for the discussion. And from that perspective, I think my concerns have been answered for the moment. There is still obviously trust that the Parnham team will continue to work with Dorset Council and its licensing team and environmental protection. But I do think it was a very productive meeting yesterday. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Thank you for your comments, and we thank you for your time that you've taken to give comments on this application. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I will now move on to Mr. Michael Nisbet.
Hello, Michael Nisbet here.
Good morning.
Hello, Michael.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. I understand this is the opportunity to reflect back highlights in summary form.
The summing up, yep.
And I would like to emphasize the fact of the trust coming from common ground of shared correct information. And yesterday did start that process. My 7 bullet points, the takeaway is 1, all activities to take place in the grounds on the East Bank. 2, all licensable activities take place inside the blue line on the East Bank. 3, that blue line is to be applied as the amplified sound boundary across which no public nuisance noise should ever cross, and so should have decibel meters on its 4 sides monitoring sound with records available to the council and the public for reassurance. I agree with your team recommendation that numbers and events should be reduced. The normal total people on site should be no more than 200 to 250, which was nearly accepted yesterday. Any activity involving more than 200 to 500, but more than 200 to 250 people should have the noise and management plan agreed beforehand. As many have urged, the number of large events of over 500 people should be reduced to 5 a year, including national events like Bonfire Night. And there should always be a gap of at least 1 month, 30 days, between any 2 such large events. 4th, as promised in writing by Mr. Perkins, no external amplified sound after 11 p.m. ever. 5th, the promises yesterday on the bar, I think, should be kept. the sale of alcohol only to resident hotel guests or people having a paid-for sit-down meal. 6, the extensive range of activities and the promise to have a manned entry point and phone line mean that there will need to be not 1 but 2 site supervisors on duty, 1 at the gate and for the phone, and 1 doing the rounds in the grounds. 7, we heard some disturbing news about non-compliance and less than truthful mapping. So I think the implication of this applicant's readiness to mislead on the notices and on the map, and indeed telling some untruths to some residents, is that any operating schedule approved by yourselves must be particularly clear, unambiguous, and enforceable. Simply hoping, as someone said yesterday, that all will somehow stay automatically, quote, within reason, demonstrably won't work. And on that point about clarity on the operating schedule, I'd just like to correct 3 items that arose in yesterday's meeting. The key words in the policy really are preventing and promoting, your 4 objectives. They're in the guidance, the policy, and in the team's report, and voiced by a resident. One person mentioned yesterday that all you had to do was to, quote, mitigate, which has a different meaning. So I trust the policy will be applied correctly in terms of preventing and promoting the objectives. Secondly, we heard from the barrister yesterday that the notices were done right in the end. That was actually misleading. It took 6 weeks to get the notices done right, 2nd of June, 14 July. And that was 3 successive, ever stronger reminders from the licensing team to these highly professional, experienced London licensing solicitors. So the impression given was that the delay was deliberate. Thirdly, we heard that the misleading map, wrongly claiming that Parnham owned areas which they did not own, was, and I quote, just down to some, quote, mismarkings. In fact, the map deceived the council on what land did own, particularly important because the 2 crucial areas in the center of the area concerned might have failed the application. So I just wanted to note the fact in passing that I checked, the word mismarking does not appear in the Oxford English Dictionary. And so it was a shame that the barrister had to invent, that the deceit was so large, the barrister had to invent a word to explain it away. I'm pleased that has now been acknowledged and corrected. But it does end up meaning that we do have to be fairly clear and rigorous in the operating schedule. Finally, I note the earlier statement by a councillor about remarks yesterday, describing groups of customers. I have tried to be constructive by offering you supplement 1. It condenses everything into 6 pages, the 30 key paragraphs of all the documents concerned on the licensing policy and the guidance. And councillors are assumed to know that. I simply refer people concerned to your policy, paragraph 517, which may help provide some common ground and help to defuse the situation. Thank you for your time and your chairmanship on this. I've been very impressed. It's been my first YouTube meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Nesbitt, and again, thank you for your comments and thank you for joining us for over the 2 days for the discussion of this application. I will now move on. I have got...
Chair,
yes.
Can I just come in there? For the benefit of all those concerned, is it worth putting the updated map that we have recently seen up on the screen for people's consideration? That might help some of their summing up.
I believe the map has been circulated.
It has been circulated this morning to everybody.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Should anybody wish for the map to be put on the screen, we can, if nobody has seen it.
Just checking my email. Suggestion it goes on screen.
Okay.
I will do my best, Chair.
Thank you.
Good point, Roy. Thank you.
That's what I was thinking.
There we go. Wasn't expecting that, so not prepared. Zoom out. Zoom out. Zoom out. Right. Bear with. That should be on screen now.
Can you zoom in, please, Aileen, a little bit to show the where the blue line now is, so that people can clearly see that, if you don't mind. And just push it up the screen. And again,
yeah.
and that's perfect. Thank you. You're doing a really good job there.
Thank you.
Your IT skills are brilliant. If you zoom again, please.
I'll zoom again.
YouTube
finished
not yet
then.
showing.
Thanks, Aileen.
Thanks.
YouTube is not yet showing. Oh no.
It'll be a little bit of a delay there.
Thank you.
It'll take it's always a little bit behind.
Okay, it's there. Thank you, Aileen. Appreciate
You're
that.
very welcome.
Okay.
So
I'm now
as
going
we can
to
see from the line, go on, sorry, Chair. Go on.
Okay. I'm now going to move on to Mr. Megan for summing up, please. I believe Mr. Megan was on, wasn't he?
Yes, can you hear me?
Can you hear us? No, not really.
Yes, you're a little bit faint. You're very faint.
It doesn't matter.
Can you move closer to the...
I've got nothing else to say. I don't want to take up any more of your time. And particularly as Mr. Nesbitt has put the case so well. But that's it from me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Megan. Thank you for your comments and thank you for joining us for this application. Thank you. Like I said, we don't have Mr. Lousley here, but Mr. Lousley has said that the comments that he was made, he didn't feel as though he could make any further comments, so is happy for us to use the comments that he made yesterday as his grounds for summing up. Okay, I have got I believe it's Chrissy and Tim Jenkins.
Yes, hello. I'd just like to say on behalf of both of us that we've also seen what we think is a very changed and more collaborative approach taken by the applicants to this particular situation, and that the communication which they have now provided to people and the way in which Mr. Catton has listened and blended their desires with the observations by the various people participating has been extremely positive. I think for us, the underlying key to this particular issue has been communication, and sadly, communication at the beginning of this process was flawed in terms of the process to manage it and indeed the content of the communication. So my only observation ongoing is that I think the licensing application is proceeding well, but I would caution the applicants that this is perhaps, and they will know this, the beginning of a journey, and communication ahead of time in the ongoing journey to develop Parnham, which we think is an excellent thing, is key. And they have got the lock, the door, and the access to provide that communication to the population and the interested parties which surround Parnham. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Again, thank you for your comments and thank you for joining us for this application. Okay, I will move on now to, do we have Mr. and Mrs. Horner here? No? Okay, I will come back nearer the end just in case. Do I have Mr. James Green? No.
Sorry, Chair, I can't give you who's here and who's not now. I've got my sharing screen up, so can Elaine possibly take over that one?
I think that
I only have 2 on my screen as
I
well.
think that
I didn't hear whether you
I
called
think
my
that map
name.
can
I'm
come down
sorry.
now, Chair.
Hello.
Chair, I think the map can come down now that people have seen it.
I wasn't sure if you'd called my name or not. I just missed who you just said. It's Lorraine Green here.
No, not yet, Lorraine.
Oh yeah.
No.
Okay, fine.
Okay, you are very shortly. If I don't have the next one, then you are there.
Okay. All right then.
Mr. Green, do we have Mr. Green in? I do have a few more on my screen now, but still can't see a Mr. Green. Okay, Lorraine.
Okay, thank you.
Move on to you for summing up, please.
I still have concerns about traffic pollution. I still have concerns about light pollution, and I still have concerns about noise pollution. Obviously, some of those concerns have not been allayed, but obviously we've been informed that they're not going to be as bad as we think they are. And all we seem to be able to do in this is wait and see. In that respect, how can we measure things like car pollution and the fact that the village, because it will become, parts of the village will become a rat run, so that people don't have to go via Bridport and all the way along that road if they're coming from the west, and those coming from the east won't have to go through Beaminster. They can rat run through Netherbury to get to Parnham. How would we end up being able to address all of that?
Unfortunately, we are not going to be able to answer that because we are only here for the license for the actual premises, not the surrounding areas.
Okay, no, okay. My other thing is I still am very concerned about an alcohol license being granted when there are no buildings in which to hold any events. There is no way that any doors and windows can be shut, and marquees do not prevent noise. That is my major concern. So I think it's somewhat premature to put through an alcohol license and a food license. I could understand if a restaurant is built, but it isn't. It's going to be just a marquee, I believe. And I do have concerns about that. And I don't also, it's going to be very difficult to run a successful restaurant in a marquee, I would have thought, with some of the weather that we get here. But that is Parnham's problem, of course, not mine. But I still am very concerned that this is putting the cart before the horse, and that at least planning should have been applied for the buildings before license for alcohol was applied for. And I think that's just about it.
Okay, thank you very much. No, again, thank you for attending and thank you for your comments there. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much. I will now go on to Emma Tracy and Chris Berry for summing up.
Yes, we have nothing more to add except that we support what Michael Nisbet said. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and again, thank you for attending. Mr. Dower.
He hasn't joined us this morning.
Okay, I'll just go back through who I have. I didn't have a response from. Did we have? It was Mr. and Mrs. Horner, wasn't it? We don't have them on.
I can't
Mr.
see
Green.
them, Chair.
No, Mr. Green.
Nope.
And not Mr. Dower.
No.
In respect to that, I'll just take obviously the comments and the what they've submitted in the report. Okay, I will now obviously go to Councillor Rebecca Knox.
Thanks, Chairman, and thank you for the opportunity to give some consideration on the summing up matters. I'm just looking actually. It's a great opportunity to have this, but I just want some clarity, if that's all right, Chairman. So the licensing committee obviously is looking at the now proposed area on the map that we just saw within the blue line and the red line. There was reference to other activity on other parts of the estate to not take place on the west side of the river. I don't believe the licensing committee can have do have a role in deciding what activity happens on the west. But if it does, I would be minded to actually just say, actually, there could be some really good activity on the other side. It could involve all sorts of outdoor activity for young people, horses, brownies, as Councillor Weller mentioned yesterday. It doesn't necessarily need to involve music and alcohol. Therefore, I wouldn't like to see that restricted just to one part of the actual the area that's contained within the new map. I should think it'll actually come down to the planning committee, but I'm hazarding a guess there. But I'd just like some clarity about that, if that's possible at this stage, or perhaps it's something you will be considering in your discussions, the three of you, after we leave this meeting. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rebecca. I appreciate that. I will pass you. I will now ask Aileen, and Aileen can answer that for you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Knox. The licence, if it's granted, will only cover licensable activities. That will be the definition as in the Licensing Act. So it'll be music, it'll be alcohol, it would be performance of dance, it would be the boxing, wrestling, and the indoor sport. It will not cover any events, and it cannot cover any events that don't fall into that category of regulated entertainment.
Thank you for that clarity. That's really helpful.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Aileen. Councillor Knox, do you have anything else to add?
No, I don't think so, but I might just add, if I might just use this opportunity, for those who do have concerns which fall outside of the remit of the licensing committee, and there are some that have been mentioned today. Obviously, there's the next stage, which will be planning application, and that's the chance to engage with what will the town council will be heavily involved in that as well. So that's the opportunity. But no, your role is clear, and I wish you well in your consideration for the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Knox, and again, thank you for your comments, and thank you for joining us on this hearing. Okay, I believe I have covered all the speakers that wish to speak. So I will now, we don't have anything from responsible authorities because Environmental Health didn't actually submit anything, so they won't be doing a summing up. So I will now move on to the applicants' representatives for their summing up, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, sir and your colleagues. I won't be very much longer than anybody else has been, in fact. What we do hope is that if nothing else, the subcommittee and others take from this hearing that what you are seized with is a competent, passionate, committed applicant who has proven itself through this hearing to be flexible, communicative, reasonable and candid, with a set of sensitive and considered proposals and aspirations designed to and capable of recreating and restoring Parnham with a sustainable long-term future. We're very grateful, can I say this, for the various comments to that effect during the course of today's and indeed yesterday's hearing. The response or the character of this applicant is perhaps best shown by that reduction in the site footprint through the plans that were circulated last night, reducing the boundary northwards and to the east as well, happily removing from the site footprint the bridle paths and pathways that were of particular concern. Might I just, for the sake of clarification, make one or two observations about some of the other restrictions that are proposed through the conditions, and this is best done or most easily done by me if everyone has condition 23 at page 72 of the agenda papers in front of them. This is a condition that was proposed to us by your environmental health team. And as you know, it's through that condition that external regulated entertainment should cease and would cease if a licence is granted at 2300 hours, saving for 10 occasions which, subject of course to the satisfactory noise management statement and plan, might go on until 1 o'clock in the morning. Failing such satisfactory planning, of course, there couldn't be such extensions on those 10 occasions. We do still seek that flexibility. We take on board and agree with the observations yesterday that the word occasion is perhaps a little nebulous. And if the committee wanted to replace that with the word day, just to make it very clear indeed that we were only talking about 10 days and not 10 occasions, perhaps of more extended duration, that would be absolutely acceptable. We do seek to be able to supply alcohol 24 hours a day through the licence, and I wouldn't want any misunderstanding to fly in respect of the ambit of that permission that we still do seek. We have, as you know, worked closely with your responsible authorities in advance of making the applications, so much so that the police were always silent by way of any representation in respect of the application, through agreeing conditions with your various responsible authorities, and of course through the further reductions that we've accepted or proposed in the course of this hearing. It is the case that no responsible authority at all, and here you might consider the silence of the police particularly pertinent, but no suggestion that any or that any issue arises around the permission sought in respect of the supply of alcohol. Can I say this, that we were extremely happy to hear yesterday that your expert advisor on environmental health and in particular noise pollution is happy with the set of proposals as they stand, wasn't subject to any further questioning by any interested person yesterday, and is content, or as content as anybody can be at the start of a process, that noise is capable of being managed properly within the ambit of the licence and permission sought and subject to those conditions. We were also extremely happy to hear that in principle, the activities that we propose on site are largely not objected to. There are, of course, some outstanding questions for you, Madam Chair, and for your colleagues as to precisely where the balance ought to be struck. And of course, those are matters for your deliberations now. But we do in particular endorse Councillor Knox's observation to you yesterday that over-regulation can carry with it a risk of strangulation. And we ask you to take those observations into account as a general piece of context. We do stand by the flexibility that we seek in respect of numbers. We've heard the observations about brownies and guides and the potential use of the site for organisations of that type. And as you know, we'd always intended to and will be working closely with local educational establishments. We hear and endorse the observations about communication. We hear and endorse the observations to the effect that if we are fortunate enough to be granted a licence by yourselves, then that will be the beginning, the very beginning effectively of a process, which to succeed we will need the community's assistance with. We have the test event, the wedding event next weekend, and our sound specialists will attend. We will of course be inviting your environmental health officers to attend, and in general, this is an applicant that will strive for perfection from the off, recognises that we're unlikely to reach a state of perfection immediately, but with the assistance and goodwill of all, us, responsible authorities and all those neighbours and residents that we hope to reach that state of perfection rapidly. Those are the only observations that I would make by way of closing, Madam Chair.
Thank you, and thank you to you and your colleagues and Mr. Cajun for all your comments that you've made over the last 2 days. Thank you.
Chair, just an observation for the applicant.
Yeah.
Would they consider setting up regular meetings with the community to discuss the ongoing issues at Parnham Park? Would that be a consideration that they would take on board? Is Mr. Caton online?
Yeah, I'm here. Yes, we have no problem. I think the first thing we want to do now we've gone through this process is start engaging with all of the community one-on-one. And then I think I'll get the feedback. And if that's something that everyone would love to do, then I would more than happily have an open day where people can come down and we can all just share our thoughts and feelings and worries and hopefully happinesses with each other.
What I was thinking, Mr. Caton, was actually, potentially, and depending on the outcome of our deliberations later, that you would set up regular quarterly meetings, perhaps with the various selected members of the community, to work with them to evolve Parnham Park with their support.
Happily do that.
And my other, and this is just purely a suggestion, that you might wish to work with the community over a working group for future events at Parnham, so that the community feels engaged as you develop Parnham Park.
Yeah, well, it's something that we want to do anyway, having all these gardens here and the produce garden as well. We just like people to be able to use, share, understand and learn with it as well. So yes, but we've discussed going down the line when and if and when we do get our license and get to a stage where we are more developed and it's safer to have people on the property. Totally would love to do a whole range of activities and involvement and engagement with the community, schools, anything that can do with education. So yeah, we very much want to tick many boxes. It's not just for our own privileges here. As we said, we've become custodians of an amazing estate. We need to generate some income so that it washes its face. And at the same time, we would love to make this very much part of the community that all ages and from all genres of the life can come and enjoy what thousands of years have created and 500 years of beautiful house will be again. Yeah.
We've heard some very, very constructive comments raised by people, such as Lorraine Bremer earlier about pollution, noise and so on. And I think those working with the community, you will be able to come up with the suitable answers, which will help you through the planning process.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is just one little hurdle of many, I'm sure, and there's going to be a lot of firsts for Parnham House over the next few years. And we are not going to be able to succeed if we don't have everybody all communicating with us and listening and helping. So yes, very much so. Planning is going to be lots of hurdles, and we need an audience.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. I am going to deviate slightly because I can, because I want to be mindful that everybody does get their chance of summing up, and I do believe that we do have a speaker that has now come onto the meeting, so I just want to ensure that they have got anything to add. So I will go back to Mrs. Horner.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, sorry to miss the beginning, but I will.
Fine. Yeah, we're partway through our summing up, so I've gone through all the speakers, but I just wanted to come back to you.
That's very kind of. I'll catch up. I'll catch up later, and hopefully look forward to being part of the meetings with Nick at a later date.
Okay, that's great. Well, thank you for your comments, and thank you for joining us for the last couple of days. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye bye. Thank you.
Okay, thanks all. I will now move on to Aileen, our licensing team leader, for summing up.
Thank you, Chair. I don't intend to sum up very much. I just wanted to say that for me, this is licensing working at its very best. This is an applicant who's been responsive to the comments. This is people being engaged and involved in the process. And I hope that it gives the community some confidence that should they need to, they can come back to us and we can go through different processes with the applicant in order to carry on and further the relationship and whatever happens at Parnham House. And that's all I wanted to say, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Aileen, and it's definitely worth echoing your comments there. Thank you very much. Okay, I'll now move on. I will now go to our legal advisor, and I just want to clarify that all relevant points have been addressed.
Yes, Chairman, I think everything's been covered appropriately.
Thank you, Lara. Okay, I'm mindful now that we are coming to the end of our summing up, so I would just want to ensure that everybody has had their say in regards to summing up. Is there anything that anybody would like to add?
Chairman, can I make one comment?
You may.
Thank you. It's Michael and Elizabeth here. It's simply to connect. We heard the applicant and Nick Caton re-emphasising their desire to engage with the community, and I thank the councillor for his constructive suggestions of perhaps a quarterly meeting and perhaps even a working group. The point has been made earlier about keeping in touch with residents, and I think in the representations you will see a number of people saying, if you're going to hold a big event, tell the nearby residents, for example, half-mile radius, by email in advance that it's coming. That would be initiating communication. That would be the applicant initiating the communication, and would begin to put into practice the desire expressed for that communication to happen. My point is simply, agree fully, make it two-way.
Thank you.
Chair, can I just come back on Mr. Nisbet's comments there? And I think they're very wise and worthwhile comments. My suggestion and my hope is that by setting up a community consultation group with Parnham Park and the local community, you know well in advance what events they're planning and can have an input into those events, so you won't need an email because you'll already know. And you'll know when they start to, the germ of an event starts to come to mind, what's going on there.
Thank you, Councillor Fry. Does anybody else have anything that they would like to add? Okay, well, again, I'd just like to thank you all for your time, especially yesterday and today, and for all of your comments. Us as the committee do have an awful lot of documentation to go through. So with that in mind, I am going to close the public part of the meeting, and the subcommittee will make our decision in private. We will have a democratic service officer in attendance with us, and we will also be calling upon our legal advisor to ensure conditions and wordings of anything that we decide to do. So with that in mind, again, I would just like to thank you all for attending. The decision will be sent out within 5 working days, as normal. Once you have received your written decision notice, any parties that are not happy with the decision that the committee has made do have a right to appeal, and that right to appeal is within 21 days, and that is to Weymouth Magistrates Court. I will just go back to Aileen, because I know that obviously I just want to make sure that it's the decision notice is sent out to everybody, that everybody gets a copy. I just want to go back to Aileen just to clarify as to how that will be sent.
Thank you, Chair. That decision notice will come out by email to those people that we have emails for. It will also be sent out by post to the few that we only have a postal address for.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, well, thank you again for your time, and in that respect, I will close the meeting. And
Chair,
now, can I?
Chair, do you need a proposer to go into exempt business?
I'm just about to ask for one.
I will propose you go to exempt.
you beat me to it. So if I could please have a proposer to go into exempt business.
I propose exempt business.
Can I have a seconder?
Second.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you all for attending. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, committee.
Thank you.